Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Shared Time Learning or Project Based Learning. Let's recap from the Module 1. And now that you know a little bit about PBL, or if you don't recall, it is basically learning by doing. We are going to be learning by doing a project and finding resources and building on that project. So today we're going to talk about what is a driving question. What is a driving question? This is going to help us with this observation stage of project-based learning. It's going to have us thinking about some of our interests that we have. It's going to have us explore different project ideas and really start structuring, or at least thinking about structuring a driving question that is ultimately going to help us dive deeper into our project. So during this observation stage, we need to start thinking about the driving question and setting the stage for the investigation of our project. So before we start just saying, hey, this is what my project's going to be, and these are the things I'm looking for, it really helps us to slow down and think about what are some things and skills and standards we want to achieve, um, perhaps as we do a project. And if you don't have a project idea, that's okay. That's what this stage and this module 2 is all about. So during this observation stage, we're just opening our eyes, thinking, and observing. We're going to identify standards and skills you would like to uncover and learn. We're also going to develop a driving question that will drive your project and give you an authentic audience or challenge through experiences and opportunities. And that's probably going to be more module 3, but at least in module 2, we can start thinking and developing. So what is a driving question? A driving question, oh, sorry about that. A driving question in this module will be defining what and why we use this driving question. It is exactly as it sounds. It drives your project by continuously encouraging questions, discussion, inquiry, and of course, investigation. As you work through your project, you should ask, is what I'm doing really helping answer my driving question? So that way we always are focusing our resources, our questions, our inquiry, our discussion, our communication with our community partner back to that driving question. Now, it might be an offshoot from our driving question. We might maybe think about modifying our driving question, but at least it's focusing back on that main focus or that main question. With that in mind, there are 4 stages of creating an effective driving question. There's engaging for you. So you're going to present a challenge, issue a question that interests you. So hopefully that has to do with the topic that you've already started thinking about or finding a community partner that you can focus your project with. Even better if it relates to a real local issue or problem of interest. So if it's something like you're taking ballet lessons, that's real life. That's something that you can put into practice and action. And it's something that's engaging to you. Next, we have to think of a question that would be open-ended. So it has multiple answers. It's not something I can just answer by Googling it or by looking up a few websites or asking my local community partner in just one single interview. It's got to have multiple levels. Your challenge or question must obviously, as I said, go beyond a simple Google search. And it must lead to in-depth inquiry. So hopefully, as you're starting to think about a question, it asks or prompts you to think of other questions that go along with that overall umbrella driving question. We also want it to align with goals and standards you wish to accomplish. So if you're thinking, again, like ballet or taking swimming lessons or art class, what are some other goals you would like to accomplish along the way? Do you want to learn various techniques? Do you want to learn the history behind ballet or the great artists? Do you want to be able to draw or perform at a certain level? So what other goals are you hoping to accomplish? Maybe you're going to present this or you'd like to create a website or a YouTube channel. And then another goal might be to do some public speaking. So again, your goals and standards will need to be learned in order to address your question. So some other things you might think of are, besides technique or who your audience might be. It might also be some other benefits for your topic. It might answer the questions of why am I doing or working with this community partner. And so we need to start thinking about some goals and standards. These do not need to be stated in a question. So again, your driving question is that overall big scope, big idea. But again, you're going to have these little goals and standards that maybe change as you're going through your project. But it's something that you want to look forward to, something that's going to help create a project that's a little bit deeper and make it more authentic towards you. And then finally, stage 4, you want it to be short, short, short. As a rule of thumb, the driving questions should be short enough to fit on the front of a t-shirt. So we don't want it to be this long, convoluted question that has like questions within questions within questions. We just want it to be something that you can answer that's engaging for you, open-ended. But again, as you're doing your research is answering, or your goals are answering all of those parts of your driving question. So as we start thinking about this, let me roll up here. See if I can move this up a little bit. Starting a beginning. So when we're starting to think about a driving question, again, has one correct answer. So maybe you're like, I have no idea where to start. So I'm just going to think of a question based on working or thinking about who my community partner is. Maybe I have a few examples in this presentation, but maybe I'm thinking about working with a local beekeeper. So maybe one of my questions is, what is your job? And again, that could be Googleable, but at least I have a starting point, and that's good. It's good to think about, like, if I can think of one question I might have, what might that be? And could I then develop into a more deeper driving question? So again, start thinking about what's one question that you might have that, maybe you could answer with Google. This question may not capture the main focus of your project, but at least it helps us have a starting point. So if you have a piece of paper, you can jot that down. Then let's think about the there, or we're almost there, so to speak. Does it capture the main focus of the project? So even if you're not sure what your project may be, you at least know your topic. And does it capture kind of the essence of that topic? You know, as you're starting to learn about project-based learning and have started maybe meeting with your community partner or talking with your parents or relatives about this project, maybe you might start thinking about some ideas. And hopefully this allows you to think of some open-ended questions, allows you to have multiple avenues that you might like to explore that's under that main topic. So that allows us to kind of be in this 2 and 3 stage. Thinking about some open-ended questions and then having some goals that maybe go underneath that. And then finally, this beyond part really captures this 3 and 4 stage. It captures the main focus of the project, is open-ended, and allows us to have multiple avenues and explore, as well as connect your goals to the real world. And that's ultimately where we want to be by module 3. And we're going to come back to this. But I just want you to start thinking about, again, what are some questions you might have about your topic or working with your community partner? Can you think of other questions or standards or skills that you might have underneath that big topic? And then how could we start phrasing it into something short, but connects to our goals as well as the real world? All right, so here's a useful structure for thinking about a driving question. It consists of the following. 1, a framing words. So how can I, how do, could, what? Those are some framing questions that we might maybe start our question out with. Again, driving question has to be a question. So these allow us to form or phrase our ideas into a question. So we have some framing words. Now, do you have to use these exact framing words? No, but these are just some options. Next is a person or entity. How can we, or how do I, it could be a we and I, or how could our city, or how could our group of people, like how could I encourage young people to get involved in lifeguarding? And then finally, stage 3 is that action. Can I create, build, encourage, make, solve a problem? Those are third part of our question. And then finally, the fourth part would be an audience to solve a problem for school, for the environment, for that group in particular, for an organization. So not only do we have to think about these 4 stages for creating our effective driving question, but we also want to think about, once we have those 4 stages, how can I actually create that driving question? Again, this is going to be in module 3 as well. So right now we're just kind of keeping these things in mind. I'm introducing you to the concepts, and hopefully you can start thinking about, oh, I have this topic. Again, maybe it's has to do with botany or some kind of physical education. And this is where I might start thinking about, how could I phrase it into a question? Or at least maybe in the beginning, something that I could, there might be a question I might have, but then making sure it's in a question, or have a project idea, and how can I frame it into a question? All right. So again, we have 4 stages. One is when you start thinking about your driving question, it engages you. Hopefully with your topic, that's kind of organic in what your course you're taking, that meaning that hopefully it engages you if you're taking this course. Secondly, it's open-ended. You have multiple answers, and again, it can't be Googleable just with a single Google search. It aligns any goals or standards you wish to accomplish. So maybe there's multiple things you'd like to do, and we'll go through some examples with that. And then, of course, we want it to be short. We don't need it to be five sentences into finally ending with a question. We want it to be short, that we can make sure we can actually answer the question in our opinion through our experiences. And then once we have those ideas, we can start framing out the structure of our question. And we'll again do that more in module 3. So this is the end of part 1. Go ahead and take a break, at least a 2-minute break if you're working through this entire presentation. Otherwise, come back on another day and we'll start talking about some examples of a driving question and how you can really start brainstorming some ideas.